There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of Savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to words of Professor Buitron. Come train at the best-kept secret of Laredo. Buitron Academy, 956-401-4868. Savate.biz.
We're here back on a Monday, and I want to hope everybody had a great weekend. And we had some great questions this past week. And one of the questions that I'm going to touch on is, did the coup d'etat of Boxe Française and Savate influence Bruce Lee's JKD in June Fan? That's a question that, number one, I've heard a lot about in the past 30 years, 35 years, more or less. And many people say it was, and I'll get into it just a little bit. But number one, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have, there's a lot of content out there in YouTube. We just broke another milestone. We have 900 plus videos on our YouTube channel. We have a lot of content, from documentaries to short documentaries to our Gloves Off program to a bunch of tactics of what we could do with Savate and dance through Savate, to folks that are looking for past workshops, demonstrations, historical stuff like that, and just the questions and answers that we continue moving forward. Now, I know that everybody's gearing up for the holidays. It's already November, and I want to wish everybody, start wishing everybody happy holidays. Let's be peaceful. There's some issues going on with the trucking and the ships coming into port on the West Coast, and people are very scared about what's going on with that situation. But nonetheless, let's keep praying, let's keep moving forward, and let's be ourselves, start living life. Okay? Now, back to the question about did Bruce Lee use the coup d'etat of Savate? Well, I know that Bruce Lee was influenced by many martial arts, and he himself documents heavily on Savate, on the Basque art, which is Cipota, on fencing. They use the same term, coup d'etat. Okay? Savate uses it, Boxe Française uses it, fencing uses it. Coup d'etat means a counter to an attack on the same line that the counter is coming from. So in other words, if the person is coming with let's say a left punch, well, that left side is going to be it's going to be stopped. The attacking appendage is going to be stopped. It's going to be hindered in some format that line is not going to be able to attack you. Okay? And many professors in the turn of the 18th century practice that. It is very well documented within the book of Joseph Charlemont, the book of Albert, Professor Albert, Maître Charles Charlemont, and pictures used it extremely. Professor Magnuet used it extensively, including in his Gan, and influenced Gan and big time with that. Of course, like I said, fencing has it as well. So where did Bruce Lee grab it, or where did Bruce Lee get it? I have yet, and I've talked to many people in the Jeet Kune Do. They always say some French fencing instructor taught him Savate. Could that be possible? Yes. Never has a name been provided, but it's not uncommon for that to happen. I meet a lot of people out there that tell me that they've trained in Savate, and when you ask them, how long did you train in Savate? They said, I trained 5, 6, 7, 8 years. One of them told me 15 years. And I said, who's your professor's name? Who was your instructor? And they get very irritated and they get very aggressive and they get bothered and they say, well, he's a Frenchman. You don't believe me? And you're like, well, if you don't, if you train with somebody for that long period of time, you should know his name. I've trained with a lot of individuals, and believe me, the good instructors and the bad instructors, I've learned from all of them, and I can tell you every single one of individuals that I have ever trained under. So let's leave that alone. It's really not important, but what's important, just pay attention to the things that go. What I know is, and I've talked with individuals back in the 80s, from some of both the Santo Academy and some of the other individuals that were around at that time frame when we were bringing down Savate and pushing forward, that he had a book. But the book that he had, the book that was shared, was the book of Julien Leclerc. Julien Leclerc was the lineage holder of Charles Lecour, the founder of Boxe Française, or actually the founder of Adresse Parisienne. That was the true name of the art. A little bit of history I'm going to give you, which was changed, and it was taken to Boxe Française by the poet Théophile Gautier. Okay. But nonetheless, that was way back in the 18th century. Leclerc was around in the 19th century. How do I know that they used, and he was the lineage holder? Well, number one, Maître Sylvain Silvani told me so, and he was a historian of Savate, probably the best historian at that time frame. He passed on early 2000. So the last time I saw Sylvain Silvani was probably 1993. But there was others, my professor, Maître Roger Lafont, also one of the old professors that lived, well into his 90s. Some say he lived to 101. I'm not too sure. Others say he lived to 97, 98. There's a lot of different dates of how long he lived. But anyway, I met him. I trained with him. I was a student. I was formed as a professor underneath him in both Savate and Panache. And he used to talk a lot of the stories of why the coup paret. Okay. And people might say, no, it's not, Bruce Lee did not take it from it. I'm going to compare some pictures. And the pictures are compared to Julien Leclerc, and they're exactly the same. Now, did he learn it from the pictures and reverse engineering? That can occur. Remember, Bruce Lee was a phenomenal martial artist. Bruce Lee was not only an inventor, a creator, he was also the influencer of many, many martial artists that are very great in this day around the world. Okay? If it wasn't for him and his system, a lot of martial arts people would not know about him today. Okay? So he was very, very great in the martial art field, in the martial art world, as a Sifu that taught many, many capable martial artists, and they have gone out to influence many others. But folks, when you're at a level like Bruce Lee, or the level like Robert Paturel or Sila or Ed Parker or Adrian Emperado, or those individuals of those high levels, Uncle Bill, folks of that nature, you can get something and you can see a technique and literally you can re-engineer it. Okay? It might not have the same feeling, but you'll have a good percentage of the look and of the flair and of the effectiveness. Let me tell you this, because this was also brought to my attention by one of my students, because before I was doing this, I was putting things together to show, and I'm going to be playing a lot of pictures in the background of coup parets back then and modern and what it is. Remember, a coup paret is a counter on the same line. Whether it's whether it's an upper appendage or lower appendage, it's the same line. It's a counter stopping that line from progressing forward. Okay? And sometimes people, when they're sparring, they're interchanging their legs. And when you catch one on the leg and you stop it and you jar it, the whole body brings forward. It gives you an advantage. And people say, what's the difference between the pedagogy of Savate, or boxe française, of Savate, boxe française, of dance through Savate? The pedagogy is to get there a little bit before. It's always about timing. Okay, so a coup paret is about timing. So you have to practice these coup parets. And they're beautiful to work with. They're beautiful to do. There's way too many. I will do a couple of videos about them. In fact, I've done some already. And I'll list them. These are the coup parets pertaining to certain instances of what you can do. And you guys can go out there and play by yourself, you know. Understand one thing. For those that want to do Savate, please give me a call. Please send me an email, VitronAcademy@2012@gmail.com. If you want to learn the crew and get the actual curriculum of Dancerous, go to Buitron Academy at buymeacoffee.com. Become part of the crew. It's growing. We have great people inside from all over learning. Because, you know, with the pandemic, it was very hard for us to continue moving forward. But there's certain sets, there's certain combinations, there's certain things that are taught to learn. They're part of the pedagogy of the art for you to learn it in the future. And without these basics, without these intermediate counters and combinations, ripos and enchantments, you're not going to grow. Okay. What I've seen in the past, everybody wants to do a coup paret. Show me how to do this. Okay. And you show it to them. But if you cannot throw a punch, you cannot throw a jab, you cannot throw a hook, you cannot throw a coup de bas, you cannot throw a suplex lateral, or don't even know what a suplex lateral is, well, the rest of this is history. Understand? There are certain kicks that were done by Leclerc that were called suplex lateral. And they were also known as chasse lateral and chasse frontal. Is a chasse the same as a suplex? No, it's just done a little bit different. And some of these kicks that were done back then had different names. People need to understand that there were regional names for Savate kicks or boxe française kicks. They came from the club. So they were in the club by themselves. People say, what was that? This is an answer I got by two different people. One, Salvani told me this, and the other person that told me this was and he just passed away. Great individual. That it was Leblon from Viroflame, Jean-Pierre Leblon, and was that you had so many clubs, you had so many differences, you had so many people training, good guys, bad guys. What I say by good guys, bad guys, remember saboteurs, they worked as policemen, they worked as bouncers, they worked as enforcers, there were doctors, there were lawyers, there were students, there were soldiers. They came in all levels of society, okay? And they all trained with respect in all the different schools or styles that existed. So you never knew in the street if the person was trained or not. You have to realize that Savate, pre-World War I, had 1 million+ practitioners in France alone. Right now, you probably have about 500,000 to 600,000. Okay? So it's lost a lot. Some people say that we have less than that worldwide. So it's an art that is slowly diminishing, and it's an art that has taught and influenced many others. Okay. So when I got this question, I'm answering it to the best of my ability, my experiences, what I was taught, what I learned, and what I had seen as as in my life within Savate, in my life within teaching Savate since 1988. And you all can do the math. I've been doing Savate a little bit longer than that. You know, I'm 53. I started when I was 6. So in 3 more years, I'll be doing this for 50 years. Imagine that. So I think I've been doing it for a while. So you get folks right now that just started picking it up. They picked up a book, and all of a sudden now they're experts. Good for you. We'll help you out if you need anything. If folks, one more thing, keep on practicing. Hit the like, share, and remember, I think, in my opinion, I think Bruce Lee was highly influenced by the French arts of fencing and of boxe française and so on. And I think that the coup d'arrêt became the stop hit that you see right now, and you hear about it throughout the different Jeet Kune Do schools. And it's great pedagogy. And remember, if you're a good fighter, you're a good pugilist, and you see something, you're going to take it. It's going to become yours. And you will reverse engineer it to the best of the ability because you saw what worked. All right. Until next time, you all be peaceful, stay in peace, and be safe.